And we're live. Yeah, how you doing, man?
Fantastic. Thank you for asking. ProPod Ponderings, Chapter 3, Episode 3. I'm going to jump right in. Uh, as a reminder, this is a framework that we've set up. It's a really quick kind of jump into two topics, one that I bring, one that Grant will bring, and we'll just kind of share our thoughts on it. And then there might be a follow-up question, and then when we turn it over to the other person, they do the same. And then that's that. And we invite people to engage with the questions either in the comment section here on YouTube, follow us, on all the social medias, and just continue to talk through some of these concepts because we love to learn and hear from different people who are way smarter and more experienced than us. So that's that. Today's topic that I'm going to be bringing to us is about anxiety, the feeling of anxiety, the concept of anxiety, all that, the way that sometimes we ignore feelings of anxiety, all the stuff. And I want to kind of share maybe a little bit of a nuanced or a new take. I'm sure it's not new, but that anxiety can actually be a good thing. So that's my kind of controversial take here. And just really quickly, the way that this medical news journal right here defines anxiety is a normal and often healthy emotion. Comes right out the gate and says that actually. However, when a person regularly feels disproportionate levels of anxiety, it might become a medical disorder. Anxiety disorders form a category of mental health diagnosis that lead to excessive nervousness, fear, apprehension, and worry. So that's, obviously anxiety, a very broad topic, has impacted every single one of us in some capacity. And there are some who have disproportionate levels of anxiety, and there might be chemical imbalances and things that they're doing. So I don't want to speak to that and just do a generalized concept, like I'm speaking to anxiety. However, as a human being who experiences significantly high levels of anxiety in certain situations, either relational environments or when there's responsibilities for me to perform in a particular way, I feel a lot of anxiety around those two, kind of situations I'll find myself in often as an athlete and as someone who has relationships. I'm married, and I have, a community of people around me, and we don't all necessarily agree on, the same worldview. And I'm blessed to have a bunch of people who, have either different religious, persuasions or backgrounds and beliefs and different things like that. So, anyways, all that said, the thought that I was having was that for me, I've actually found I'm 29 now, and it's a relatively new thing that I've become aware of. But anxiety to me actually lets you know that there's something that needs your attention that you're currently not giving your all to. So, what I actually think now, and I'm trying to, rewire my mind around this new narrative, that when I'm feeling anxiety, I'm feeling nervous or I'm feeling fearful, it's actually not that I need to distract myself or I just need to relax or I need a glass of wine or I just need to jump on social media and just kind of, whatever I do to, I think there are good, healthy things that we can do to kind of, combat that, whether it's go on a run or, eat a healthy meal or whatever. But I think at the heart of it, what I'm now starting to do is saying, number one, can I name it? Can I pinpoint what I'm feeling anxiety about? If not, then I should probably go for a run or exercise and try and clear my mind so I can better evaluate the situation. If there is something I'm afraid of this or that, chances are I've got a self-limiting belief that's keeping me from maxing out my potential to actually overcome that particular problem. And I'll just say for myself, I've often just kind of given up and said, either it's not worth it or I just feel anxiety, it'll always be this way. And then I try and fight external situations by either not seeing that person or making an excuse as to why I can't perform up to the level I'm being asked or whatever. So, all that said, the final kind of concept that I would kind of round it out and finish my thought up with is that if there's something that I'm struggling with and I begin to feel anxiety, my new practice that I'm trying to do is just take a couple breaths and evaluate what is it? Can I name the fear, the belief beneath the fear, the whatever I feel danger or whatever I feel afraid of, can I name that? And then secondarily, can I do something about it? And so without going too deep into that, I don't want to be too surface level on that because I know that there's a bunch of different dynamics. There's people who actually study this stuff, but I'm kind of just sharing from experience, and that's kind of a new practice that I have. When I feel anxiety, I'm actually feeling it now. I'm going to tell myself this is a good thing because it means I'm not owning something. It means there's something left, like a stove on the burner that was just left on. There's something in my life that needs my attention. And now I'm going to kind of use that as maybe a little like warning light that says, hey, we got to address this. Otherwise, it's going to get worse. So that's my thought on anxiety.
I love it, man. So what, maybe if you don't mind sharing, is maybe a recent example of a time where you have felt anxiety, what's maybe going on in your life right now that made you probably want to bring this topic up, and how, have you identified it, like you said, and then what have you kind of identified as being something where you could control a facet of your life to counteract that anxiety?
Yeah, I'd love to share. It's kind of right now. It would namely be around, especially the past couple months, the idea of finances. And now that there are some things that my wife and I are trying to do, and some personal goals that we have, and they require money, and then we have a daughter, and just all of that. There would be a lot of anxiety when certain things would happen. For example, we'd be out, and my wife would want to buy a certain thing, or I would feel like something was important and we needed to get it. My wife didn't feel that same way. And so that feeling would bring up anxiety. What I thought the problem initially was is my wife. She needs to get on board and understand that, whatever. And that's such a limiting belief that the feeling you're having is someone else doing that to you, and it's only their fault. And so anyways, not getting too much into that. So the thought, though, the responsibility that lies before me to have good interpersonal skills and be able to, one, connect with myself, and then connect with my wife and communicate those thoughts effectively, and kind of go through that together, to seek out people who are just more experienced in finance, and also then structuring a budget and actually sticking to it, and deploying new levels of sacrifice and commitment to some of those things, and saying no when we don't really want to, like all of that. I think it's just easier to feel anxiety and then just like complain and push the person away and whatever. Or we can take step by step, baby steps in the right direction. Just do, what can I control right now? Okay, I can sit down. I can ask my wife, hey, what's the time for you this week where we can sit down and go over our budget, which I'm not calling a budget anymore. I'm calling it a life architecture plan. And so those meetings are like way more fun because we're like having our life architecture meeting. How do we want to build our lives and structure the resources we have to build the most fun, amazing, impactful, whatever buzzwords, life possible, instead of just a boring budget meeting? So there's definitely been some like new kind of skills and tools that we're both learning. But honestly, like I was just stuck and feeling anxious. And I think the anxiety makes us freeze sometimes if we look at anxiety as who I am. I am nervous. I am fearful, like those things, instead of, I notice I'm having a thought. I'm feeling the feeling of anxiety. I'm not that. It's just kind of letting me know there's something that I can be doing better at. And so that's been the one for me. And I've gotten to meet with, you know, some new people. I've reached out, kind of put myself out there and asked people for help. One of my good friends, his name's Tanner Enderly. He is a financial health therapist. And so he's got an organization called Flourish Financial. And so I'm on weekly calls with him, and then additional stuff on the side. And so that's a new relationship that's taken place, that an existing relationship, but now it has a new dynamic to it. And the anxiety is leaving. There's no reason now for me to be afraid of finances because we have a plan in place and we're sticking to it. So that's a practical example where finances were bringing up a lot of anxiety for me, for my wife, and we just weren't doing anything to take practical steps forward. And now we are. And like I said, I don't have that same feeling of anxiety anymore.
Yeah, man, that's I think maybe a good segue even into what I wanted to discuss, which is really a revision of our website. And it's three principles I think that Protagonist could stand for. I think they're good principles, regardless of if they're ours or whoever's. But those three principles, I think, that Protagonist definitely could be about is one, growth, the second being action, and the third being sacrifice.
Mm.
And I think that last one is right. It kind of hits the nail on the head and aligns with what we were just talking about in terms of. And I'll just read the little blurb on it. Sacrifice where there's pain, there's purpose, and we sacrifice short-term comforts for the long-term gains these pursuits allow us to realize. And so I think that anxiety that you're feeling because you wouldn't feel anxious if you just like didn't care about
Mm.
getting financial control
That's
and
good.
having that freedom. But you do care, and so that there's purpose behind that plan that you guys are putting in place. And of course, like planning requires a lot of short term sacrifice for long term flourishment. And
Mm.
I think it applies in almost every single domain of life. And if we can do the hard things that other people don't want to do, we can realize the rewards that most people aren't going to realize. So whether that's finances, whether that's creating a business, whether that's committing to a new set of habits or eating a healthier diet, um, that idea of sacrifice is so huge. So growth and action are two other ones we can talk about, but I, I like that does correlate, at least our topics. So
Yeah, dude, that's fantastic. Those for sure. Whether they end up being our principles that we stand on, for the duration of this company, or at the very least, just kind of foundational principles, that we've tried to embody as we're launching, protagonists and things like that. I'm curious when it comes to sacrifice, how important something like a vision or hope, knowing that it's going to pay off, or at least you believe you're willing to take that risk, as opposed to there being pain and it being purposeless pain. So how do you, sacrifice, like you live a sacrificial life in just the area of waking up early and going for runs or doing yoga or whatever. Like it might not be in that moment, but how is it that you feel you are embodying a life of sacrifice, and how important is it, to have that vision?
yeah, um, I mean, a lot of the sacrifices I've now that you could maybe classify as sacrifices. I've just really at this point in my life for a lot of things just done so repetitively that it's become habitual and no
Mm.
longer really a sacrifice. And so I mean those things for the longest time has been fitness, going, working out 4 or 5 times a week, my nutrition, eating, an omelet over 6 stacks of pancakes smothered in syrup for breakfast. And so those things now it's like I've done them for so long that the idea of a super sugary dessert doesn't even appeal to me.
Mm.
So it's weird how, those sacrifices once repeated become just the norm.
Mm.
Um, yeah, man. And then like other areas is just, I've tried to live and sometimes unintentionally and not on purpose, but like below my means, and, live as frugal of a lifestyle as I can. Um, and yeah, I mean, I think those are three big buckets. Um, maybe the last one just being like sacrificing those short-term quick hit entertainment fixes, be it Netflix or whatever your form of entertainment is. That's maybe not
Whatever your drug is, drug of choice.
your drug of choice. For my mom, it's Candy Crush. But sacrificing that for learning, like using that time, how many hours of TV. I was talking to one of my buddies the other day. He says he probably spends 2 hours a night watching TV with his girlfriend. It's like, Okay, you take 2 hours a night, that's times 7, 14 hours a week, keep multiplying that out. And there's literally days of time at the end of the year where you could have committed that to learning something, learning a new skill, researching, like getting better at anything like useful. Um, so I'm not perfect in that respect. I still screw around on my phone and all that, but trying to get better and optimize and track is like the name of the game, really.
No question. We can go a lot more into that, but I appreciate your clearly defined, concise, practical examples, G Money.
Always. That's what I'm here for.